What's up, everybody? It seems like a lot of y'all are enjoying that PCM repair video. Again, sorry about my microscope not recording that first time when I went through the entire thing. Um, I feel like there is maybe a few snippets here and there in those videos that might be helpful or important, or something like that, or some of you might just want a little better understanding of my process that I went through. And so here's a little bonus extra for you. Here's basically the unedited process that I went through. Again, these video clips were more or less just filmed for the audio side of it, to record the audio, and they were supposed to be supplemented with the actual video from the microscope that didn't record. So there was a few questions about a couple things in the comments, like the purpose of the 20 coil loop. That's because I knew that circuit was a very, very low current that the amp clamp wouldn't accurately read. So by multiplying it by 20 loops, it give it something that the amp clamp could read, and then I could just mathematically divide it out and figure out how much current the circuit is. And that way, if I did need to test something in the PCM, I couldn't actually overload whatever it was supposed to be that drives that circuit. I knew it would be something low current, so I was actually expecting like just a smaller IC chip, something like that Schmitt trigger that would actually be sending out the signal to the fuel pump module. But once I got it apart and actually got checking things, they used that Mosfet driver mainly because it's got some circuit protection inside of it for overcurrent, over voltage, things like that. So it's basically, they use the Mosfet as a protection for the PCM because it can handle certain situations like a short to ground, a short to power, things like that. So realistically, whenever that thing is running, I should be able to give it power through like a 194 bulb pretty easily, and it should be able to pull that to ground because it can carry, I think it's like in the data sheet, up to amp and a half or something like that. I'll put links to the data sheets down in the description there for any of you wanting to look up the data sheets for these two chips and kind of see how they work a little bit. Schmitt triggers are pretty a little over my head. I kind of understand them a little bit, but I need to do more research about them. I need to learn a little bit more. But yeah, I hope you guys kind of enjoy this little bonus footage stuff here. And I've got one more video that I had recorded before I left. So most of y'all had seen my post about me taking a few days off. I'm actually in Omaha right now. My girlfriend has a travel contract job, and today is her last day of work. So tomorrow we're driving back to Alabama. It's about a 15 hour drive. So I flew up to help her drive back home. So, but anyways, that's beside the point. I got one more video that I've got filmed. I'm still editing it a little bit. I'll probably finish it sometime today. I don't know if I'll get to upload it before I leave. If not, I'll try to have it up Sunday or Monday for you guys. So anyways, hopefully some of you will watch this little bonus lost footage, whatever you want to call this. a lot of this is just real time. I didn't really shorten hardly any of it out. It is broke up into some clips here and there though, but for the most part, this is almost my real time, just kind of walk through this thing, cleaning the board and doing everything to it that I did. And I think the only thing I didn't really film was finding an extra capacitor to replace the one and then actually soldering it on. I don't think I filmed that. But anyways, if you got any other questions, after this video, just leave them down in the comments. And like I say, I'll put the the links to the data sheets down in the description if y'all guys want to check those out. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I got the board out and kind of looking the whole thing over pretty good. And at first glance, I seen this little black spot here. And at first, I thought it might have been a Sharpie mark, but yet there's no other Sharpie marks like that on the board. So put it under the microscope, and it actually looks like some kind of corrosion, and it's over here on this side of it as well. Let me try to get the lighting a little better on this. Let's see, can we? All right, so I've got my microscope recording, I think. So you can kind of see this black spot here, which looks, like I said, at first it looked like a Sharpie mark, but now I'm thinking it's not. And then over on this side of the capacitor, it's not going to pick up very well on there, but there's also some blackness in that as well, on this trace right here. I don't know if you'll see that or not, but I also then flipped it over on the back side, and where was it? Let's see. Oh yeah, right in here. So whatever it is, it come through the back side of it as well, and it's getting right there. So if I got a capacitor starting to leak or something, none of them really look like they would be, but that doesn't mean that it's not. I don't even know if this area of the board is where I need to be looking or not. I literally just got it out of the case and have been looking it over. So let me do some tracing and see if that pin goes down there to that little chip. I don't think it does, but we'll see. Well, I might be on to something with this little black corrosion or whatever this is. I've got this thing traced down. Let me show you. I've got basically my positive lead from a meter fed into my input, and because basically the fuel pump control module is going to be feeding power in, so I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm in diode mode, so it's running current that way to check diodes. So I basically have traced the circuit down to this Mosfet or something here. So as you can see right here on pin 3 or pin 2, we've got a constant path there, and then pin 1 is nothing, pin 3 is nothing, and the tab is nothing. But with this Mosfet here, if the middle is our drain, we would have a source or an input and a source and or an input. So I need to look this chip up and see what's happening. But either way, this side right here is going through all of this corrosion over here. And I believe it's kind of coming back around to this chip over here. I'm not positive, but I'll figure that out. But let's look this chip up right here and see exactly how this thing works and what it does. Okay, so we do know that this little burnt stuff or whatever this is the control for our MOSFET here. So I'm going to try to just clean this off and see if it comes. Well, I don't know why that only recorded for 30 seconds, but I did get this cleaned off pretty good. But this little black resistor, I think it's a resistor here, I want to take it off and try to get this area right here just a little bit cleaner and make sure there's nothing under here, as well as take this chip off right here. I'm pretty sure this right here is a Schmitt trigger. Even though it looks like the trace goes straight through and out to over here to this pin, whenever I was checking it, it actually goes to pin 3 here and pin 7, I think is what this one is, which is a ground pin. So I'm not really sure if this chip is supposed to go to ground when it's not active or what, but the diagram shows this being an output of pin 1 and 2 here. So I want to take this off and just follow this trace under here, make sure it does go to this one, and make sure there's nothing under here that could be causing our issue as well. So I got those off, and as you see, it does actually go to pin 3. I can kind of set y'all down here. So as we can see, if we follow this trace up where it goes under that resistor or whatever that was, it does come through but kick down to here, which is pin 3. So that is correct. I'm not sure why it was connected to ground. It had to be internally connected to ground, or this pin here, which is by the diagram ground. But either way, this area don't look too bad. I'm going to scrub on it just a little bit more, try to make sure it's just extra clean right there. It looks pretty good. Looks a lot better. Yeah, I'll go with that. Still got just a little bit of this black stuff in this corner. It's not wanting to come off too well. But it's not touching it anymore, so I'm going to call it okay. I'll put this back together, and I might start testing it, see if it starts to act right.
I didn't think about it, but y'all might have wanted to see me do this. So I just take some flux and I just kind of put all over the pads and some solder wick. I basically just kind of wrap my iron in it, and basically I just kind of let it go over all these pads until it sucks all the solder off of them. Gets them nice and clean. And take the chip here, set it back on here. And you always want to make sure you set it back on the same way that you took it off. So I kind of have a routine of how I take things off and set them back on. Before I solder them back down, I'll go back and look at a picture that I took. So let me double check that's how this one went, and if it is, we'll solder it on there. It's a good thing I do double check myself, because when I took that off, my board was sitting in a different orientation. So like I was basically flipped upside down from the way I took that chip off versus the way I had it set back on here. So good thing I double checked myself, because I had it flipped backwards. So basically got this thing kind of lined back up on the pads, and we're just gonna solder it back down. I like to just get just a little solder on the tip of my iron, and just kind of do the corners first. Don't take much, just a little touch, and it'll pull the solder off the iron onto the chip. So once I get the corners done, I kind of like just press on it just a little bit and reheat them, and make sure it's seated very well. And then you can just kind of go through here and do all the pins one at a time. Get a little more solder on there. And then once I kind of get them on here, when I think they're good, I will look at it under the microscope and double check all of them. I do have a little bit of flux left on the board from cleaning it, and that really helps the solder flow really well too. So let me look at this under the microscope. Alright, so let's clean off all that residue now. Still got to do the little resistor. We'll do that after I get this kind of cleaned off. That way I can look at them all again really good. Yep, they all look good. So to put that resistor back on, I'm probably going to have to do that under the microscope, just because of how tiny that sucker is. Let's see, maybe my iron will reach all the way over there. Yeah. So let's get this board kind of situated where I can see good and get to it. Okay. So this thing actually, once I got it off, now it kind of looks like a capacitor. Sure does look like a capacitor. Huh. Is the top side black? Okay, so that side's black. So maybe it's only black on one side. Okay. This ain't gonna be too fun. But it's got to go back on there. Alright. Gonna take and put just a little dab of flux down there. And work this thing over into place. There we go. I'm gonna try to use my needle lead here to just hold that down. Ugh, so small. Oh, damn. Get off there. Come on, get off there. Ugh. That thing is so tiny. Let me know in the comments if you've ever soldered anything this small. I don't think I have. I think this is probably the smallest thing I've ever had to put back on a board. Come on, stay there. Problem with flux, once it melts, it kind of gets a little too sticky. Come on, get over just a little bit more. Ah, too far. Okay. There we go. That is where I want it. There we go. Can't really tell if I'm on it good on this side or not, so. Yeah, this on there now. There it is. It's back on there. So, do you think we've fixed anything? I don't know. I think it's probably worth a shot to test it, you know, because if not, if this didn't fix it, we've got a chip issue, and with that corrosion being right there on that input circuit, that input circuit's going to be very, very low voltage and probably just a few volts, like maybe 3 or 4 volts, probably, if I had to guess. Maybe 5, but it might even be lower current. So maybe that little bit of corrosion isn't letting it trigger completely. That Mosfet definitely can flow way more current than what we were seeing that it takes to trigger that fuel pump module. So I feel like it has to be fine. I can test it as well, but we'll clean off this res flux and try it out. We're just gonna shoot some power and grounds to this thing, hook the scan tool up to it, and see if we can get into it to where we bidirectionally control it till it turn that on. So I think we did find the culprit here. The corner of that cap does look a little strange compared to the other side, and that is where the majority of that black stuff was. So I'm going to replace that cap as well, just to make sure, because I don't know if you'll be able to pick up. It almost looks a little burnt. So, I think that's probably the culprit. So getting that cap off right there, you can see what looks like that black corrosion probably kind of actually started under here and kind of worked its way out. So, I think that was our culprit for sure. So I'm going to find another one of those caps, clean this up some more, and we're going to give it a try.
Well, if you made it to the end of this thing, here's a little extra for you. Some of you might be wondering, how do I charge for this, something like this? And whenever it comes to doing kind of any kind of module repair, the way I approach it is I look up to see, how much a replacement module is, whether it has to be a new module or if a used one is okay, availability, things like that. And generally, if it's like a used module, I mean, even if you have to go new, I kind of almost follow the same principle. But like, for instance, this module, there is some out there. I found a few. I didn't find many, but I found a few of these with this exact part number. So I basically took what they were selling for and added in what my programming fee would be, and that's what I charged for it to repair this thing. And some of you might say, well, why not just replace it? Some of you might say, well, I mean, they're not really saving any money. No, they're not. But here's the thing, they're saving time. Some of those modules that I found were coming from like the West Coast, so they would have took probably a week to get here. And then I still would have had to have programmed it for them. They, being a Ford, they would have had two keys. I don't know if they had 2 keys or if they got to make one. That's not my deal, but they knew they would have had 2 keys. So I basically price it in a way to where if my repair does not work or doesn't last, I can still buy the module, get it put in and programmed without basically charging anything more. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And that's even with a new module too. Like if it's a module that has to be new, I most of the time charge what a new module would cost. There's a few times where I don't. Like Hyundai Kia modules are notorious for being over $1,000. You know, so in those cases, I'm like, no, I'll do it for this, but if this doesn't work, then that's your option. So I know there is some other EEPROM options out there available for Hyundai Kias, but that's just an example. So I basically just kind of look at it as what it would cost me to replace it, and that's what I charge to repair them. Sometimes it works out in my favor, sometimes it doesn't. This one, time-wise, for me, time-wise, it'd been better to just replace it, but then we'll have a cool video and whatnot. And I have fun doing it, so to me, it's not that big of a deal. So hopefully that kind of helps you if y'all are starting to dabble into this, about how to price this stuff. I mean, you can price it however you want to. That's just how I do it. So there you go, guys. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.